So for my presentation, I'm going to be doing the new trade theory, which comes from chapter 5 in our textbook. So one very good example of the new trade theory today here in the United States is the automotive industry. So one thing that we do in the United States is we import and export a lot of cars. You might find an American company such as Ford in countries throughout Europe, while on the other hand, we also tend to bring in cars from Germany such as Audi, Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, all cars which a lot of people in the United States are very fond of, and that just goes to show how beneficiary the new trade theory really is. So the new trade theory began to emerge in the 1970s. It was developed by Paul Krugman, and this theory focuses on increasing returns to scale and network effects, which I'll be going into more detail about later in this presentation. Before the new trade theory came into the picture, the only reason trade was seen as a benefit was due to comparative advantage. This is the old trade theory. It still goes on today, but what it was basically places were trading, countries were trading the only things they were good at, and that's the reason they were trading. As we can see in the picture to the left, the best place for coconuts is trading with the best place for wool, and both of their items that they're trading tend to do a lot with the climate due to their geographic location. On the other hand, new trade theory is where countries can be similar in abilities, but they tend to pick a good that requires large-scale production, and they focus on that good, and a lot of places from around the world can come to them for that particular good. As we can see, luxury cars, we can relate that to the Germans. They're known for their luxury cars. Aircrafts, United States is pretty big with aircrafts. So these are just a few examples of new trade theory in the world today. New trade theory brings monopolistic competition along with it. Monopolistic competition is a type of imperfect competition where many producers will sell different products that will be different from each other. There's not going to be a single firm that takes control over the entire market, and there's going to be some firms that are larger than others. Aside from the automotive industry, which has monopolistic competition in it, another example would be the fast food industry. McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's. This fast food industry is made up of a lot of brands that we are familiar with and we can distinguish from each other, and that's just something that's very common in the new trade theory. Another big part of the new trade theory is the returns to scale, as I mentioned earlier. The returns to scale is the rate of increase in production, and it's related to the increase in factors of production. Basically, it's a relationship between input and output. As we see on the purple graph, there's a certain amount of input where the output remains constant. So the sweet spot for companies that are plugging in these inputs is to do it with the least amount of input generating the most output, which in this case is at the number 3 for the scale of inputs. Network effects is an effect that a user will bring to a good or service, and it affects the value of the product that people see. There's no intention to really create the value for this product. So a good example would be telephones. It started off with just a few people, then as more people got telephones, more people knew people who had telephones, thus making it just grow exponentially. Same thing with Facebook. As people knew each other having Facebook, people knew people who had Facebook, who knew those people, etc. That's what made Facebook grow. It can kind of be seen as a bandwagon effect. So some industries that the new trade theory applies to, as I mentioned earlier, the automotive industry, the pharmaceutical industry is a big one, the aerospace industry is a big one, and what all these industries have in common is that they have fixed costs. This means that the costs of the business are going to be constant no matter the quantity of goods or services that they produce. So in order to make money off it, they have to do very high output of their products. Thanks for watching, guys.